Top 10 ugly stones that turned into million-dollar treasures. Some of the most valuable treasures on Earth didn't sparkle when they were found. They were kicked aside, buried, and forgotten, mistaken for rubble, not relics. In the beginning, they were nothing but dull gray stones lying in the dirt, passed over by miners and collectors alike. Yet within those rough and lifeless shells, the Earth was hiding miracles, colors waiting for light, stories waiting for discovery. These are not just gemstones. They are second chances the Earth gave itself. Beauty, it seems, is not about what shines first, but about what learns to shine last. Every ugly stone in this story carries a secret. That value is not born of appearance, but of patience, transformation, and time. In the next few minutes, you will see 10 stones the world once called worthless, until heat, pressure, and human curiosity revealed the extraordinary within. Welcome to World of Gem, where every stone holds a story written in light. Don't forget to press and hold that like button, leave a comment, and hit subscribe before we begin. Ranked 10th, Calcopirite, when corrosion becomes color. Under the cold light of an abandoned mine, a grayish stone lies buried among heaps of discarded ore, dull, tarnished, and forgotten. Miners once called it the useless rock. To them, Calcopirite was nothing more than a stubborn alloy, too impure to refine into copper, too dark to mistake for gold. But within that corrosion, nature was quietly performing an act of alchemy. Oxygen, sulfur, and time conspired to weave a film thinner than a strand of hair, an atomic skin that bends white light into fire, scattering it into purples, greens, and golds. It was not beauty that defined the stone, but decay. Under a microscope, the surface unfolds into a metallic labyrinth, chaotic yet precise, as though carved by the invisible hand of entropy itself. For centuries, miners cursed its presence. In Zacatecas, in Cornwall, in the copper fields of Arizona, Calcopirite piled up in forgotten corners, left to oxidize beneath the rain. It was too common to be precious, too complex to yield profit. But history, like chemistry, changes form under pressure. When the age of magnified vision arrived, macro lenses, museum lights, collectors with patience instead of pickaxes, the stone finally spoke for itself. What once looked like industrial waste began to gleam like alien circuitry. The truth startled even scientists. It wasn't artifice, but oxidation that made it shine. They renamed it peacock ore, the stone of pride. In museums, it now rests behind glass, shimmering in quiet irony. What miners once tossed aside now sits among treasures. In Mexico, locals call it La Piedra del Orgullo, believing it teaches the virtue of endurance, that even what rusts can one day gleam again. In Tibetan lore, Calcopirite embodies balance, masculine iron and feminine copper, destruction and creation intertwined. Collectors today pay thousands for stones that display full iridescence, not for rarity, but for meaning. Calcopirite has become a geological parable, a reminder that beauty and ruin share the same breath. The closer the mineral comes to breaking down, the brighter it glows. In the language of geology, that glow is called tarnish. In the language of philosophy, perhaps it is redemption. As the colors fade back into gray, the stone returns to silence, to the anonymity it has always known. But for those who have seen it under light, Calcopirite no longer looks ordinary. It becomes a mirror of the Earth's oldest truth, that even in corrosion, creation continues, that sometimes the world's brightest colors are born from the slow patience of decay. Ranked 9th, Fire Obsidian, the volcano's hidden prism. Beneath the volcanic plateaus of southern Oregon, black glass lies scattered like frozen night. The first miners who found it thought it worthless. Just another shard of obsidian, sharp-edged, opaque, cold. They called it slag rock, a leftover of lava's temper. No one suspected that inside those dull surfaces slept one of the rarest optical miracles on Earth. When sunlight hits it at a certain angle, fire obsidian doesn't simply reflect, it ignites. Colors bloom like auroras trapped in stone, gold melting into green, green fading into violet. But this isn't pigment, it's physics. Inside the glass, invisible layers of nanothin films, each one a boundary where light hesitates, split the spectrum apart. Every hue seen in fire obsidian is a result of interference, not inclusion. It's not what's inside that glows, but how light itself struggles to escape. Geologically, fire obsidian is obsidian plus perfection. It formed when rhyolitic lava cooled so rapidly that crystal lattices never had time to organize. Within milliseconds, molten silica turned to glass. Then over eons, microscopic mineral bands developed. Iron, titanium, and magnetite suspended like threads in darkness. To the naked eye, it remained a black mirror. Only under the precision of lapidary work did its true identity emerge. Cut at the wrong angle, it stays lifeless. Cut at the right one, exactly along the interference plane, it burns with layered flame. When gem cutters in the 1990s first uncovered this effect in Oregon's highlands, disbelief followed discovery. They saw a rainbow trapped inside a stone the world had dismissed. Collectors called it fire obsidian, as if the volcano itself had kept a secret for 1,000 years. Unlike most gemstones, it can't be faked. Heat, acid, polish, none can reproduce the spectral depth created by volcanic chance. In the lapidary world, working with fire obsidian is an act of patience bordering on reverence. Each rough piece is mapped with a beam of light, searching for the direction where color reveals itself. Most fail, but when it works, the effect is hypnotic. Rings of color shifting like oil on water, yet cleaner, more disciplined. A single gem can display up to 7 layers of interference, each one reflecting a different wavelength of light. No two are the same. Local legend says the colors are the last breath of the volcano, trapped when Earth's heat met its own reflection. The Klamath tribes who once walked these lava fields saw obsidian as the stone of mirrors, capable of revealing not just faces, but truth. Modern geologists might smile at the myth, but even under laboratory light, fire obsidian behaves like a mirror that answers back. In today's market, a well-cut cabochon, just 2 centimeters across, can sell for $300 to $1,000. Larger, flawless examples are museum pieces, their surfaces appearing to hold shifting galaxies. Yet the true worth of fire obsidian isn't price, it's revelation. A reminder that not every treasure must be mined. Some must simply be seen differently. Its beauty exists in tension. Too little light, and it vanishes. Too much, and it blinds. Between those extremes lies a perfect moment, a fraction of a degree, when darkness and color find balance. In that instant, a black stone becomes a spectrum. Fire obsidian is not a gem that shines on its own. It borrows brilliance from whoever dares to look closer. The volcano made the glass. Time made the layers. But only vision makes the fire visible. Ranked 8th, petrified palmwood, the forest that forgot it was alive. In the quiet clay beds of Louisiana and Texas, beneath river silt and oil-soaked soil, the ghosts of a forest sleep. They are not trees anymore, at least not in the way memory expects. Their trunks no longer breathe. Their roots no longer drink. Over 20 million years, their sap turned to silica, their bark to quartz, their fibers to patterns sharper than memory. What was once wood has become stone, and what was once alive now endures longer than the mountain that buried it. When the first settlers unearthed these strange patterned rocks, they saw only debris. The fragments looked like broken driftwood, weathered and heavy. Many used them as fence posts or tossed them into fields. But when the stones broke under a plow, the inside revealed something impossible. Geometric dots and starbursts, each cell of ancient palm preserved in crystal clarity. It was not decay, it was immortality disguised as ruin. Geologists call it petrified palmwood, a fossilized remnant of the Oligocene epoch, an era when the Gulf Coast was a tropical delta, rich with ferns and palms. When floods buried the trees in silica-rich mud, each organic cell became a mold. Over millennia, minerals replaced their structure atom by atom, perfectly preserving every fiber. What we see today is not merely fossil, it is time made visible, a geological photograph taken before humankind existed. Under light, the patterns form a rhythm, dots, dashes, lines, like Morse code carved by nature. Each cell, once part of a living palm, has crystallized into chalcedonian quartz. The surface feels smooth, almost polished by the patience of the earth. In Louisiana, these fossils became the state's official stone, a symbol of endurance through transformation. But their story is not just scientific, it's cultural. Native peoples along the Gulf once believed such stones were trees that dreamed too long. In their stories, the palms chose stillness to escape the storms, and time rewarded them with permanence. For them, petrified palm wood was sacred, used as talismans against flood and fire. The modern world, in its rush, forgot that part. In the lapidary trade, these fossils are cut and polished into slabs that reveal their internal symmetry. No two patterns are the same. Some resemble honeycomb, others the starburst of fireworks, others a quiet constellation frozen in brown and ivory. Collectors prize large, intact trunks, some measuring over a meter, their weight defying imagination. Museum-grade pieces sell for thousands to tens of thousands of dollars, not because they glitter, but because they remember. Yet beyond price, there is a deeper allure. Petrified palm wood speaks of continuity, the seamless handover between life and geology, growth and stillness. It asks a quiet question. When does something stop being alive? When its cells turn to stone, or when we stop seeing the life inside? Under polarized light, its fibers shimmer faintly, as if trying to recall sunlight. The effect is not spectacle, but serenity. To hold a polished piece is to hold both a forest and a fossil, both motion and pause. The dots within the pattern are not random. They are the ghostly cross-sections of vascular bundles that once carried water and sugar, now replaced by silica, yet perfectly aligned as they were when wind moved through their leaves. Perhaps that's why museums place these fossils not beside gems, but beside clocks. Because petrified palm wood does not just mark time, it is time, arrested mid-breath. And so it endures. Wood that forgot it was alive. Stone that remembers it once was. Between decay and endurance lies this quiet miracle, a forest that refused to vanish, choosing instead to petrify into eternity. Ranked 7th. Raw Tanzanite. The stone that needed fire to remember its color. High in the Mirlani hills of northern Tanzania, a dull brown crystal sleeps in the dust. Under the sun, it glints faintly, but without allure. An unremarkable shard among the endless blues of African sky and soil. For decades, miners passed it by, mistaking it for worthless zoisite or tourmaline gone bad. It was too dark, too cloudy, too ordinary. But hidden beneath that muddy surface lay a secret so fragile it could only be unlocked by fire. In its natural state, Tanzanite is plain, almost invisible to beauty, yet it holds within its lattice a kind of potential energy, chromium, vanadium, and trace elements suspended like unspoken words. When the crystal is heated, either by volcanic flame or by human furnace, its atomic bonds realign, burning away brown hues and revealing what nature had encrypted, a violet-blue glow of impossible depth. It is as if the mineral had been waiting for ignition to remember what it was meant to be. Geologically, Tanzanite is part of the zoisite family. Born in metamorphic rock where heat and pressure from Mount Kilimanjaro's ancient eruptions fused elements of Earth's crust into gem. But the precise conditions needed to form it, right temperature, right pressure, right chemistry, occur only in a 4 square kilometer zone in Tanzania. That narrow coincidence of geology has made it one of the rarest gemstones on Earth, 1,000 times scarcer than diamond. When Western gemologists first encountered it in 1967, they didn't believe it was real. The story goes that lightning struck near Mirlani, igniting grass fires that heated surface stones. The next morning, herders found the ground shimmering blue. Whether myth or truth, the tale endures because it fits the gem's essence. A miracle sparked by heat. Before treatment, raw Tanzanite looks asleep. Its trichroic structure shows flashes of brown, blue, and violet, but never dominance. After heat, those internal wavelengths fall into harmony. Light no longer scatters, it sings. The result is a hue unlike any other in mineralogy, a color that seems to contain its own shadow, both cool and warm, serene yet electrifying. Jewelers call it the twilight stone. The moment between day and night crystallized. In the market, that transformation has rewritten value itself. A dull, untreated crystal might fetch $50. The same stone, once heated and cut, becomes worth thousands per carat, sometimes hundreds of thousands for large, flawless gems. Whole economies in the Arusha region pulse around this metamorphosis, miners risking collapse and dust for a color born from light. Yet even amid trade and glamour, the essence remains mythic, a reminder that worth can sleep inside plainness, waiting for revelation through trial. Spiritually, many believe Tanzanite resonates with transformation of self, the process of burning away confusion to reveal inner clarity. In Maasai culture, the gem is gifted to newborn mothers as a symbol of life reborn from struggle. And in geology, its metamorphosis mirrors the same law that governs volcanoes, that only through heat does the earth reshape itself into brilliance. Under polarized light, the crystal shimmers like storm clouds pierced by sunset. The violet you see is not mere color, it's memory awakened. The fire did not add beauty, it simply revealed it. As the camera moves across a polished gem, the reflection seems to pulse, one instant blue, another violet, as if undecided about which truth to keep. Perhaps that is the essence of Tanzanite, duality transformed into harmony. A gem that was once dismissed as dull brown dust now crowns royal collections. But its story refuses vanity. It whispers instead, only the tested learn to shine. Ranked 6th, Moldavite, the day the sky became glass. 15 million years ago, the sky fell on Europe. It came as a fireball, bright enough to turn night into noon. A meteorite tens of kilometers wide, roaring through the atmosphere faster than sound, faster than comprehension. When it struck near what is now southern Germany, the explosion tore a crater 100 kilometers across, melting rock, sand, and soil in a single flash of fusion. For a moment, the earth itself turned liquid, and from that molten storm, fragments were flung across the land. Droplets of vaporized planet cooled midair into glass. Those emerald green relics would scatter across what is now the Czech Republic. Humanity would later call them Moldavites, pieces of the earth reborn through collision with the heavens. At first, no one recognized them for what they were. The earliest farmers of Bohemia found odd green stones glinting in the soil after rain. They were too light to be jade, too translucent to be obsidian. People carved them into amulets, charms, and arrowheads, believing they had fallen from the moon. Prehistoric settlements around the Vltava River kept them as talismans of fertility, lightning, and divine favor. The only material humans owned that once burned brighter than the sun. Geologically, Moldavite is a tektite, a natural glass born not from volcanoes, but from impact. Its texture tells the story of violence. Swirls of silica and aluminum frozen in motion, gas bubbles trapped like breath. Under magnification, each bubble holds a tiny record of the atmosphere from that apocalyptic moment. Ancient air, sealed forever in green transparency. Every piece is unique, twisted, scarred, aerodynamically shaped by its flight through superheated sky. It is not Earth's calm geology, but Earth in panic, captured mid-scream and cooled into silence. For scientists, Moldavite became a geological confession, proof that creation and destruction are indistinguishable at cosmic scale. For mystics, it was a key to transcendence, a stone of transformation that bridges heaven and ground. Both were right in their own languages. In Czech folklore, Moldavite was known as Vltavin, the gift of the river. When the great meteor fell, they said, the sky cried green tears, and where they landed, the soil became fertile. Centuries later in medieval Europe, the gem resurfaced as an object of mystery in royal and religious collections. It adorned reliquaries, chalices, and even the supposed Holy Grail. Whether truth or myth, Moldavite carried an aura that no terrestrial gem could match. It was not of the earth, yet it spoke its language fluently. Modern gemology restored its scientific dignity, confirming its impact origin, dating its glass to the Miocene, tracing its strewn field from Bavaria to Moravia. Yet markets responded not to its data, but to its myth. In the early 21st century, Moldavite fever swept collectors. Prices soared from pocket change to tens of thousands of dollars for rare sculpted forms. Its color, deep olive to bottle green, evoked growth, rebirth, and alien beauty. And once again, it became a spiritual emblem for those seeking transformation through collision. Proof that impact can create identity. Hold a Moldavite up to the light and it seems to breathe. You can see streaks, rivers of melted stone, frozen mid-flow. You can see air trapped from an ancient sky, bubbles like punctuation marks left by the universe itself. What you cannot see, but somehow feel, is the violence that birthed it, a force that fused worlds and ended eras, leaving behind something delicate enough to wear on a chain. In every piece lies the same paradox: beauty through catastrophe, permanence through explosion. A gem that should not exist, except that the heavens once lost their temper. Today, scientists call it a cosmic glass. Collectors call it a miracle. And those who hold it in quiet rooms call it a reminder that creation is not gentle, and that sometimes what falls from the sky does not destroy. It remakes. Ranked fifth, Fulgurite, the moment heaven touched earth. In the silence after a storm, when the air still trembles with static, the sand remembers. It remembers where lightning struck. Beneath the scorched surface, the heat of the bolt, hotter than the surface of the sun, has melted the grains into glass. It travels downward like a pulse, branching, tunneling, fusing the ground into a hollow tube. When the light vanishes, the earth is left with a perfect negative of that instant, a fragile sculpture of fire, shaped by voltage and silence. This is Fulgurite, the fossil of lightning. It doesn't glitter. It doesn't beg to be noticed. To the untrained eye, it looks like dried roots, brittle and pale, coated in sand. But break one open and you see the truth. The inner walls shine with a smooth, vitreous glaze, rippling like frozen thunder. This is not mineral formed by time, but by impact. It is a geological autograph written in light-speed handwriting. Geologically, Fulgurite forms when a bolt, often carrying more than 1 billion volts, strikes silica-rich soil. Temperatures exceed 30,000 degrees Celsius, enough to liquefy sand in a fraction of a second. The molten path cools instantly, leaving behind tubular glass structures called Jadeite. Each is unique, its twists and branches recording the exact path of the lightning's descent, like a seismograph of heaven. Unlike other gems, Fulgurite isn't mined, it's discovered. Hunters scour dunes, deserts, and beaches after storms, brushing away layers of sand to reveal brittle veins of fused glass. Sometimes they find small, finger-length fragments. Rarely, they uncover entire roots stretching over a meter long. The largest ever found, in the Sahara, measured nearly 5 meters. An invisible strike, immortalized in sand. In ancient cultures, stones created by lightning carried divine meaning. The Greeks called them astropaios lithos, the thunderbolt stone. Among desert peoples, they were gifts from the gods, proof that the sky had visited the earth. Shamans used them as conduits of communication, believing each held the memory of a voice too powerful to hear. In Japan, they were called Inazuma no Hana, flowers of lightning. The name fits. Under magnification, each branch looks like coral or the roots of a burned tree, delicate yet indestructible. Fulgurite's market value is modest compared to jewels. A small piece might sell for a few $100s, a large intact specimen up to $10,000 or more. But no collector buys it for its price, they buy it for its story. Unlike diamond or jade, Fulgurite is not the product of patience. It is the product of a single instant. It captures what cannot normally be captured: the touch of sky to ground, the translation of energy into matter. In a laboratory, under polarized light, a thin slice of Fulgurite resembles a nebula, wisps and whirls of glassy texture, tiny bubbles trapped like constellations. Scientists studying its structure find fingerprints of atmospheric nitrogen, clues to the chemistry of storms. But even with instruments and microscopes, one truth resists reduction: the shape of lightning itself, chaotic, unpredictable, cannot be duplicated. Each fulgurite is singular, an unrepeatable event. Artists and philosophers have long been drawn to that idea, that destruction and creation are twins. Fulgurite is both. It's what happens when too much energy meets too much stillness, and neither can remain unchanged. The sand melts, the air remembers, the world gains a trace of the divine. Hold one, and it hums faintly against your skin, not with sound but with suggestion. The memory of heat, the echo of voltage, the reminder that what falls from the sky can leave beauty in its wake. And when you set it down, you understand why museums display them beside meteorites and fossils of lightning-struck trees. Because fulgurite is not just a mineral, it is a moment. The exact second the heavens reach down, touch the earth, and left behind glass shaped like light itself. Ranked fourth, Jadeite Boulder. The stone that hid a kingdom. In the northern hills of Myanmar, where mists rise from jungle valleys and the sound of hammers echoes through green ravines, lies a trade older than empire and crueler than time. Men crack open mountains for green stone, jadeite, the purest and rarest form of jade. But before it is carved into royal bangles or sold in glass-lit auction halls, jadeite begins as something almost ugly. It hides in rough, lumpy boulders that look more like river cobbles than treasure. The outer rind is dull, chalky, streaked with brown and gray. Nothing about it whispers wealth. For generations, these stones lay untouched. Traders in Mandalay markets once walked past them, choosing only the bright, translucent pieces they could already see. But jadeite has its own idea of secrecy. The value lies not on its surface, but beneath. A hidden core of imperial green, locked under a skin of deception. Geologically, jadeite forms deep within subduction zones, where one tectonic plate slides under another. Under immense pressure and moderate heat, sodium and aluminum silicates compress into a tight crystalline lattice, giving jadeite its unmatched toughness and smooth polish. But when uplift and erosion expose it at the surface, the outer layer weathers, oxidizing into opaque gray. The treasure remains entombed, invisible to the human eye. In the jade markets of Myanmar, traders long ago developed a ritual of revelation. They called it the window. A small patch of rind is ground away, just enough to peek at the truth within. The first glimpse decides everything, fortune or failure. Some stones reveal pale green, some a hint of lavender, and some the impossible hue of imperial jade, a green so deep it seems alive. The moment of cutting is ceremonial. The entire crowd gathers, breaths held. One slice from a diamond saw, one clean crack, and the truth spills out. The world remembers one such moment in 1997, when a 3.3 kilogram boulder thought to be worthless was opened in front of an audience of buyers. Inside lay jadeite of perfect translucence and imperial tone. The stone sold for more than $5 million. For weeks it was spoken of as if it were a resurrection, the earth revealing its own deception with theatrical precision. In Chinese culture, jade is more than mineral. It is virtue made visible. Confucius described it as the embodiment of benevolence, wisdom, and righteousness. Emperors wore it as armor of the spirit. Lovers gave it as promise of eternity. To them, jade was not carved. It was released. This belief makes the jadeite boulder a paradox of human perception. What we call ugly may simply be something whose truth we have not yet earned the right to see. Today, boulder markets in Hapakan still hum with this gamble. Buyers shine torches into narrow windows, searching for the faintest glow through stone. Millions exchange hands on faith, instinct, and superstition. A single cut can turn a man into legend or ruin him overnight. Each boulder is a riddle, a sermon in patience, a test of belief. Under polarized light, a jadeite's interior reveals interlocking grains that look almost biological, like muscle fiber fossilized into glass. It is stone that feels alive, not because it moves, but because it resists breaking. Its surface may deceive, but its core endures. Perhaps that is why jadeite continues to command reverence. It is not beauty that defines it, but discovery, a lesson in perception, whispered through geology. The outer crust is just protection. The essence waits in silence, unannounced until someone dares to look deeper. Ranked third, Boulder Opal, the treasure hidden in rust. In the red deserts of Queensland, Australia, the sun burns so bright it bleaches color from everything it touches. The soil glows iron red, the air shimmers with heat, and the ground, hard as fired clay, cracks underfoot. This is where miners once stumbled upon the strangest deception in the gem world: boulders that bleed color when broken. At first, no one noticed. The stones looked like rusted iron or river-worn rock, brown, heavy, ordinary. The kind of thing a miner would kick aside to reach something that actually sparkled. But one day, a laborer split a boulder open for curiosity's sake, and light poured out from the fracture. Electric blue, green, and violet veins glowing like galaxies trapped inside rust. What the world had mistaken for barren stone turned out to be boulder opal, one of the Earth's most dramatic illusions. Unlike pure opal, which forms in veins or nodules, boulder opal grows within its host, ironstone. It's the product of groundwater heavy with silica seeping through cracks in ancient rock. When the water evaporates, thin films of silica remain. Over eons, those films layer and compact until they capture light itself. What seems like dull stone on the outside conceals a prism inside, each color born from the interference of light through microscopic spheres of silica. The irony is geological poetry. The harsher the environment, the more vivid the result. Under the relentless Australian sun, as ironstone oxidized and cracked, water found paths to fill. Each fracture became a potential rainbow. The desert, in its desolation, taught color how to survive. In the early 20th century, when the opal fields of Queensland were first opened, miners ignored boulder opal. They chased black opal from Lightning Ridge, whose pure fire brought high prices in London and Paris. Boulder opal was too irregular, too fused with its iron host to polish cleanly. But collectors noticed something the market didn't. Its patterns weren't predictable. They were paintings written by chaos. Under magnification, the opal veins twist like nebulae, their edges feathering into brown rock. Each is a collaboration between decay and brilliance, rust and light. Some pieces show broad flashes, fields of electric green across ochre stone. Others reveal pinfire speckles, a cosmic dust storm in miniature. No two ever repeat. To cut boulder opal is to court risk. Too deep, and the color disappears. Too shallow, and the brown host dominates. The cutter must read the stone, anticipate its hidden map. Each slice feels like archaeology of light. When done well, the result is a gem that holds both roughness and radiance. One half earth, one half illusion. For the Aboriginal people of Queensland, opal was the footprint of the rainbow serpent, a divine being that descended to earth to bring life after drought. They believed the serpent's scales fell where the light touched ground, embedding color into stone. In this story, boulder opal becomes not a mineral, but a covenant, a promise that even the scorched desert can remember rain. Today, collectors pay $5,000 to $20,000 per carat for high-grade boulder opal. Yet its real value resists numbers. It's the embodiment of paradox, the coexistence of ruin and beauty. The ironstone that once obscured the gem now defines it. Its roughness is not a flaw, but a frame. Hold one under light and you'll see color pulse between veins of brown. The shimmer feels alive, as if the earth were still dreaming beneath its own crust. Scientists call it diffraction. Poets might call it forgiveness. The boulder opal reminds us that not all treasure needs to be perfect. Some are born from fractures, from accidents, from time's refusal to erase what should have broken. In every vein, the desert laughs, a dry, brilliant laughter that says, "You only see beauty when you dare to split the stone." Ranked second, Rhodochrosite stalactite, the roses that grew inside stone. Deep beneath the Andes of Argentina, in the long-abandoned silver mines of Capilitas, miners once searched for veins of metal. What they found instead looked like spoiled ore. Dull, pinkish crusts clinging to cavern walls, brittle and pale. To most, it was waste. To a few, it was strange beauty misunderstood. And when they finally cut through one of those pink incrustations, the world saw something it had never imagined. Rings of rose-colored light blooming inside rock, perfect circles frozen in time. That discovery revealed one of nature's quiet miracles. Rhodochrosite, a mineral born not of molten fire or tectonic fury, but of slow, patient dripping. In these mines, centuries of mineral-laden water seeped through fractured stone, depositing manganese carbonate drop by drop. Each droplet left behind a film of pink, deepening in shade as time passed. Over millennia, stalactites formed, not clear or colorless like cave quartz, but warm and alive, like the blush of dawn solidified into mineral. Cut across, these stalactites reveal concentric rings, delicate, rhythmic, precise. They look like the growth lines of a tree or the petals of a flower unfolding inward. No two are ever alike. Some show a pale heart surrounded by vivid crimson. Others alternate between white and rose like breath and heartbeat. It is geological time arranged like a mandala, a mineral practicing meditation. To the Inca, rhodochrosite was more than stone. It was called Inca rose, believed to be the petrified blood of their ancestors, solidified through centuries of mourning. Legend said that deep in the mountains, their buried hearts still beat, turning into pink crystal to remind the world of undying love. In that myth, science and soul found a fragile equilibrium, the human wish for permanence answered by the earth's quiet consent. In modern mineralogy, rhodochrosite is prized for its unusual purity. Perfect specimens are translucent, glowing with an inner warmth unlike any other gemstone. But its most poetic form remains the stalactite slice, a cross-section of time and tenderness. Museum-grade discs from Capilitas display patterns so intricate that they seem deliberate, as though nature herself practiced art. And yet, rhodochrosite's creation depends on imperfection. It forms only where mines leak, where water carries fragments of decay. Its grace is inseparable from corrosion, its beauty built from the collapse of walls meant to hold silver. Even its color comes from manganese, an element of oxidation. The result is a paradox the earth keeps repeating, that from the slow breakdown of stone, new forms of light emerge. Under polarized light, rhodochrosite shimmers with fibrous brilliance, an inner bloom of refracted crimson. To touch it is to feel warmth, even when it's cold. Not a property of temperature, but of tone. Collectors say it glows without light, a gem that keeps sunrise within itself. High-value stalactites from Argentina and Colorado fetch tens of thousands of dollars. Their worth determined by symmetry and color contrast. But what captivates those who hold them isn't luxury, it's recognition. Within each polished disc lies a portrait of life's pattern: growth, pause, renewal. A perfect geometry that feels emotional, not mechanical. In art galleries, rhodochrosite often hangs beside paintings rather than minerals. Visitors stand in silence before them, unsure whether to categorize or to feel. That's because rhodochrosite doesn't just refract light, it refracts meaning. It whispers that time, when patient enough, can turn even grief into beauty. In first place, Nephrite jade, the stone that forgot its name. On the riverbanks of northern British Columbia, the forests breathe in mist. Mountains rise like frozen waves, their slopes veined with pale green. Along the roadsides lie boulders, rounded, heavy, unremarkable. For decades, truck drivers rolled them aside to clear paths. Loggers used them as barriers, and builders stacked them to mark boundaries. No one looked twice. They called them green rocks, too dull to be marble, too soft to be granite. But these forgotten stones were nephrite jade, among the oldest, toughest, and most revered materials on Earth. Their worth had been buried under familiarity. For a century, they lined roads that led nowhere, while the world searched elsewhere for beauty. Nephrite forms in metamorphic seams, born of pressure, not fire. Deep underground, tremors fold serpentine and amphiboly together until their fibers interlock like threads of silk. The result is a stone that doesn't fracture. It bends slightly, as if it remembers movement. It is tougher than steel by density, yet feels soft under the hand. The Chinese once called it the stone of heaven. Here it was simply ballast for trucks. It wasn't until the mid-20th century that gem dealers from Hong Kong arrived, following whispers of green Canadian rock found near Dees Lake. When they split open one boulder, the world changed color. Inside the gray rind lay translucence, pure, watery green glowing like glacier melt. The miners who had used it for construction watched in disbelief as that same rock sold in Asia for millions of dollars. The landscape they had bulldozed was, unknowingly, a treasury. In jade markets, nephrite was once considered the lesser cousin of jadeite, softer, less vivid. But the Canadian deposits revealed a different truth. Nephrite's beauty wasn't meant to dazzle, it was meant to endure. Carved into sculptures and ritual blades, it resists time in ways no metal can. Ancient Chinese artisans worked it not for display, but for eternity, believing it held the essence of balance, purity, and grace. When placed in tombs, it was said to preserve the soul's form after death. In British Columbia, there are still riverbeds where sunlight catches a hint of green beneath clear water. The stones lie half-buried, glacially smooth, unmoved by the century that mistook them for gravel. When split, they reveal a light that feels ancient, subdued, translucent, alive only when held to the sun. It is not the brightness of gold or diamond, it's the kind of light that forgives. Miners speak softly when describing it. The sound of the saw meeting jade is unlike any other stone. It doesn't crack, it sighs. Cutting jade is less an act of extraction than of conversation. It demands silence to hear its grain. In workshops, as blades hum and coolant drips, one can almost feel the patience of mountains translated into human rhythm. Today, British Columbia supplies much of the world's nephrite, shipped across oceans to be carved into pendants, Buddhas, and ancestral seals. Yet in the very places it was born, few remember its value. Many of those roadside boulders are gone now, quarried and sold. Others still sit untouched beneath moss, quiet as sleeping giants. Nephrite has no flash, no fire, no visible drama. Its greatness lies in restraint. It's the only gem that teaches stillness instead of brilliance. Its surface soft, its color deep enough to drown sound. Stand in a workshop as the saw halts, and there is a moment where everything stops. The machines, the hands, the noise of human ambition. Only the stone remains, gleaming faintly in the dim. If every other gem in this story revealed itself through spectacle, light, flame, fracture, then nephrite ends it through absence. It does not shout its worth, it waits for recognition, and when silence falls over the green mountains, when mist folds back into the river, the boulders still rest exactly where they were, unbothered, unbroken, entire. Some treasures don't need discovery, they only need to be left alone. The stones you've seen were never meant to dazzle at first glance. They were mistakes that refused to remain mistakes. Proof that time has a sense of humor, and beauty, a strange kind of patience. Every ugly stone in this story was once abandoned, tossed aside by hands too hurried to notice the miracle beneath the dust. Yet as centuries passed, light found a way in. Fire revealed color, pressure carved form, and the forgotten became priceless. Perhaps the earth was never hiding its treasures. Perhaps it was testing our vision, asking whether we could recognize value before it glittered. Because in the end, no gem begins as beauty, it begins as burden. And only through time, and the courage to look closer, does it learn to shine. If this journey has taught us anything, it's that the most extraordinary wonders often start as the world's forgotten things. Next time, we'll travel deeper, to the realm where myth and mineral meet. To stones humanity once called sacred, and believed were gifts from the gods.